In this video, we'll be talking about an introduction to CSS and how to style your web page. There are several ways to style the content of your web page. Styling takes the content that already exists, the HTML, okay, and makes it look differently. There are there's a lot that goes into styling a website. We're only going to be covering some of the basics here. And once you get an understanding of how styling works, you'll be able to adjust, try new things, and make your website look in any way that you or eventually a potential customer desires. The theory or the goal here in exploring computer science is to understand how CSS works, not to memorize every single possible thing. Okay. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. We will be separating our style, our CSS, from the content of our HTML, of our web pages, or the HTML document. This is an industry standard way to organize and style your site. I know there are other ways that you can do it. You can do it with inline style. You can put the style inside the header of your HTML document. But the way that most industry standard websites want is they want you to separate the content from the style, separate the HTML from the CSS. Okay. CSS is made up of three parts. There's a selector. And the selector allows you to select which element of the web page you want to style in a particular way. Then there's a property. The property tells the computer which property of the selected element you are adjusting, and the value is how to style that specific property of that selected element. The syntax, or the way that we type out our CSS, looks like this. We have the selector first, then we have an open curly brace and a closing curly brace. Between these two open and closed curly braces, that's called a block or a CSS block. This is how we are going to style this specific type of element. So you have an open curly brace and a closing curly brace. A common mistake is to forget one of those. We often leave the open curly brace directly after the selector. Then all of the properties should be tabbed in one level inside that block of code. We have a property, then a colon, and then a value for that property. And at the end of each property value pair, we're going to have a semicolon. All right, so again, a property, a colon, a value or multiple values, and a semicolon. And then we close the block of code. So here's an example. I could say, I want you to take all the paragraph tags and I want you to make the color of the text red. So color is the property, then a colon, then the value for that property is red, followed by a semicolon. I also want you to change the font size of all the paragraph content to be 16-point font or 16 pixels. Okay. Again, we have our property font size, a colon, then our value 16 pixels, followed by a semicolon, and finally we close off that curly bracket. We have some selectors. Common selectors that we're going to use at the beginning are any HTML tag selector. Whichever selector you choose will style all of those elements the way that you define. If some elements are styled multiple ways, the browser will display the element using the most specific styling that you have defined. Some possible selectors are things like the body tags, everything within the two body tags, H1, H2, H3, all the heading tags. You could select everything that's a paragraph, everything that's a list item. You could select everything that's inside an ordered list. You could select unordered lists, anchor tags, images, or div tags, which we will learn very soon. It's common to select the body tag to style the entire page with a specific style, like a font, color, background color, etc. Then select individual elements to style in a more specific way. All right. Some of the common text style properties and values that we'll see: color of the text, red, gray. There are many, many different defined colors that you can call by name. Um, or you could use an RGB value. An RGB value sends a red 0 through 255, a green value between 0 and 255, and a blue value between 0 and 255. Okay, so I can choose any one of these different types. I can also use hexadecimal color, and you'll see that a lot in websites. Basically, FF stands for the red. FF in hexadecimal is the same value as 255. 00 is the green, and 00 is the blue. So essentially, these are both red. Okay, you can do font style, font weight, font size. We can talk about border style, border color, border width. We can talk about background color, background image. There are many, many different properties and values that you can use. I strongly suggest that you browse through the CSS references below to see what is available for you to style. Remember that I don't expect you to memorize every single possible property that you can use. I just expect that you have an idea, that you can look it up if you want to make something look a specific way, going to one of these CSS references and looking at what you can find, and figuring out how to style something yourself. That's the goal. One more thing that I want to talk about is sometimes you'll see this 0.5 REM, and that says, a lot of times when you're talking about size, 0.5 REM means if if the normal size for a specific element is size 10 pixels, 0.5 REM means in relationship to the normal size, make it half the size. Or 1.2 REM means in relationship to the normal size, make it 1.2%, or 120% of the normal size, or 20% bigger. Okay, so this would be 20% bigger than normal. This would be 50% smaller than normal. Okay, I think that's it for our introduction. We'll be back with another video tomorrow with some examples. Again, click on these links, click around, look through the CSS reference, and kind of see what you can do.